the feminine and masculine dynamics of studying has to do with feminine and masculine energy. Feminine and masculine energy exists in everything. It's yin and yang. It's the river bank being the structure and the river being the flow. It's being, having the time, the space, and the structure, but then also having the playfulness and the freedom. So everything has feminine and masculine energy. Even men and women both have both. It's just the amount that differs between people, right? So even studying has feminine and masculine energy. You can think of it as masculine being the structure and the systems, and feminine being the flow and the actual absorbing of content, right? So some people miss one. If you're too structured and you don't have enough flow, then your studying becomes tedious. You can't focus. There are no rewards. You don't feel like doing it. You feel tired and stressed every time you do it. And then the feminine is the non-physical, like your beliefs. So if the masculine is too much and you don't have the feminine, you start to believe that studying isn't fun and not wanting to do it. But then again, if you're too much in your feminine flow without structures, you'll find yourself saying things like, oh my gosh, I can't focus. When I want to study, I keep getting distracted. When I study, nothing gets absorbed. Because the feminine has to do with like the fun, the playfulness, but it also has to do with the actual, the actual craft. Like if you think of me as a lawyer, when I'm in court and I'm, talking to the judge and engaging and doing a case, that is actually the feminine, the flow. But the structures are that I need to have had my dates and my diary in order. I need to, have organized all my pleadings, the things I'm going to take to court, the papers, the documentation. That would be the masculine structure. So they work hand in hand. So I'll give you the characteristics, what you might be missing, and how to integrate both masculine and feminine structure and flow into your studying so that you can become 100% more effective. So for studying, the masculine is like this. It's the structures and the preparation. When I was studying for the bar exam, my structures were in structure. You can also think about it like this, like the preparation phase, like the preparation of what you need before you study. So your stationery, what stationery you're going to use to study, what books you're going to use to study. I had a system of what kind of notebooks I had. I used A5 books that could fit in my bag, right? That's just the structures to prepare me for what I need to do. I also had a timetable which told me which subjects. My subjects, I had 9 subjects to study. So every day of the week, I was studying 2 subjects. And then I would repeat a subject which I find difficult to study. So for example, if I have 9 subjects and I'm doing 2 different subjects every day, then the 9 subjects will be done by Friday, right? And then there'll be an extra subject I can repeat. Then I would choose the subject which I feel I'm not quite understanding as well and put that there. That would be the structure. And that's the structure that I would need to surrender to when I'm being in the feminine flow. So the day comes and I need to study. Now I'm in the feminine, where it's just, I don't have to think about it. I just look at my timetable, I just look at my structures, and I start studying. That is the beauty of mixing the masculine and the feminine. Because if I just decide one day I'm studying, today I feel like studying, and then I start thinking, oh no, what should I study? I have all these 9 subjects. Okay, let me just pick one randomly. But it's something I'm really good at. So it's not really, the studying isn't really as effective as I wanted it to be, right? So that's why you have to incorporate the two. So once I have my structure in place, I have my notes, I have everything, my system that I use, then I start studying. Another thing that has to do with the masculine energy is keeping time and space. Okay, you can have all the content, all the study techniques and everything, but if you're not disciplined enough to keep time and space and be in your masculine energy for that period of time, then you can never get yourself to study. You'll keep procrastinating and saying, okay, I'll study later. I have the time, I'll do it when I feel like it. That's where the masculine container comes in. The masculine provides the structure. It's the river bank so that the river can flow. If there's no structure, it's just a puddle. So for me, time structures was like my time. When I was in university, when I was in school, when we were being trained, our classes used to go from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., right? And then we had like, afterwards in the afternoon, it's a break, okay? So from 9 to noon, we would be in class. So I couldn't study at that point. I would just be in class. So for my time structures were like this. When I was in school and I still needed to do the 8 hours a day studying when I was in that 1 month, athlete mode, 1 month serious mode before the exam, I started studying at 2 p.m. and I would study from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Of course, with 10 minutes break between every 50 minutes, the Pomodoro method. And that was what worked for me. So within those 10 minutes, you can literally eat a meal. I eat really quickly. I'm trying to improve on that. But I could eat my lunch, I could eat my dinner, I could eat my snacks. I could even go for a 10-minute walk and be back and do what I needed to do. So you have to make sure that your time and space allocation is on point. Some people miss this part. They think that they can just study when they feel like it, but you need to make sure that you have at least a system. There's this talk, a TED talk by Steven Darnier, and he was like, he can't study for more than 5 minutes at a time, and he understands himself. I talked about that in a previous video. You have to know yourself when you're battling this, when you're taking on this studying thing, right? So what he did was he would study for that 5 minutes, 10 minutes at a time, and then go do something else and then come back, because he knew that's how he operated. If that is the structure you put in, then you better surrender to it. Don't say that I'll study for 10 minutes, then do something else for 5 minutes, and then do 10 minutes, and then not do it. Just study for like 10 minutes and then go your merry way and don't do what you were supposed to do. The structure worked for him because he could surrender to it and be in his feminine and actually do what he said. For me, the Pomodoro sessions worked, right? So the structure is the masculine, and then the feminine is the content. Like now, how to make it fun. I used mind maps because mind maps use both your right and left side of your brain, your creativity and logic, which is perfect for feminine energy. So when I used mind maps, I found it very easy to absorb a very large amount of information. So for your feminine energy, try starting to use mind maps, because it makes studying more fun and it makes it easier to absorb information, especially if you find it very boring to study, right? Because feminine energy has to do with playfulness, with fun, with spontaneity, and that's what I find mind maps can do for you during your study session. And then another thing about masculine energy is it needs to be practical and step by step, right? Practical and step by step. So when you need to have like goals that are tangible and practical. I can just want to study for studying sake, but there needs to be like some drive behind it. So if you have a goal, my goal was to pass the bar exam and to pass in a certain way, right? So to measure this, I would do past papers of past bar exams and see how well I was faring, to give me like tangible proof to see where I am. And I noticed that I needed to do extra. That's why the 8 hours came in, because I wasn't doing those test papers as well as I should have. I was like, oh no, with the current studying I'm doing, it's not going to be enough by the time the exam comes. So I need to put in more effort, which is how I ended up doing the 8 hours a day for a month studying. And then for the feminine energy, which has to do with like the intangible stuff, you need to work on your beliefs and what you think about yourself. So your core beliefs, if you really don't believe you can study, or you don't really believe you can pass the exams, it's gonna be very hard for you. Because if I believed it, I believe that I can do anything I put my mind to. Like if I just learn how to do it, I can do it. That's the belief I was operating under. I can learn. Like even if I can't do it right now, I can surely learn. Other people have done it, and if they've not, I'll be the first. So that was a belief that I had that was really strong. So with your feminine energy, you need to work on your core beliefs. Like, what do you believe about your studying? You may put all these goals, like I want to get this and this and this, and yet you don't believe in yourself. And you're not kind to yourself, and you don't have grace with yourself when you make mistakes, which is all part of the feminine energy. So you'll need to work on your beliefs and your core beliefs. So if you integrate all these parts, like you're making sure that your structure is there, but also that the studying is fun, that it's tailored to your own needs, that you take rest and have movement. I talked about this in a previous video of how to use feminine energy to study. You can stand, you can move. Every time I would take a 10-minute break, I would get out of my seat, move. Sometimes I would do a crazy dance, sometimes I would listen to music. Whatever it did in that 10 minutes, I'd make sure I'm in my body movement, which is also part of the feminine energy, the flow, getting into your body. So when I'm studying, I can be sitting in this angle, then I'll move this way, and then move this way, but I'm still studying, right? So that I make sure I've integrated both parts, especially if you're a woman. If you're a woman, you especially need to take care of this feminine aspect. Move around, when you take breaks, make sure it's something that in your body, like you're relaxing and you're walking and you're smelling the fresh air and you feel your senses and so on and so forth. If you do this, I promise you will get the thing done. And let's answer one question about studying and see how we can incorporate this feminine and masculine energy. So this person says, I have no idea how to study. A little background info. In high school, I was a guy who got good grades without putting much effort. For me, studying for an exam was reading my notes once and making sure it all made sense. Now, in a good average university, studying in political sciences, first year, second semester, but my goal is to get into law school. Come on now. Ooh, I did law school. I want to get good grades, but I don't really know how to study. I attend all of my classes, read all of my lectures, assign, take notes when necessary, etc. But when it comes to studying, I don't have a single idea how to do it. I don't have trouble passing my courses. I just have trouble achieving a great GPA needed to get into law school. So how do people study? For me, it was reading my notes, but it's not working anymore. The first thing I'm going to say is I've talked to people who have high GPA. My sister had a 4.95 GPA, like she was valedictorian level, the highest grade in her university. And I've talked to her, and let me tell you, students who get these high GPAs put in the work. It's not just reading their notes. They make sure they're on point. She was telling me before she would do any exam, she knew like she wanted to get a 90% in the exam, and then she would take steps accordingly. So if she got a 75 in a CAT, she would go, 110, 120% to make sure that her final paper, she's gotten almost everything so that she can raise her grade. So it's not just about reading notes, because like I told you, I realized that it's good to take notes in class, it's good to attend classes, but if you want to get extra and get straight A's, you're also gonna need to do extra. Talk to any straight A student, unless they're like freaking genius like Einstein and they just sit and have an eidetic memory and can remember. You're actually gonna have to put in the work. So what I'm finding here is this person hasn't realized that to get what they want, they're gonna actually need to put in more work. Secondly, methods of studying. There are so many. I talk about it all the time. Look at my unconventional study methods playlist. I'll link it in the description. But some few things, you can start using mind maps. You can start doing the Pomodoro method. You can do active recall, right? All that incorporates feminine and masculine energy. You set the time, set the date, show up every single time you've set the time and date. Make it so that it's easy for you to show up because you know yourself. So make it easy at the beginning and then raise the difficulty and then keep doing it. Stay consistent. Make sure you know your why. You want that high GPA to get into law school? Make sure it's in your bones. You're like, yes, I would love to go to law school, so I'm going to do what it takes, right? So I hope you enjoyed this video. And see you next time. Have a good week. Bye.